Yo, chill.
You look like you need to be taken care of, nigga. You look like you need to go to the dentist. You need to look like you need to brush your teeth. You look like you need hygiene, nigga. You look like you need help. Tell your man 50 send you out or something, yo.
Jim Jones genuinely believed he could slickly discuss 50 once more. Tony Yao, however, wouldn't have it. Harlem was buzzing for all the wrong reasons when he arrived with cold receipts about Max B and Stack bundles. Everyone is now wondering who is actually in charge here. The devoted soldier who has been there from the beginning, or the so-called Harlem Don?
When I came out of jail, what did 50 do? Yo, get him an apartment in Battery Park. I ain't sell a record to do nothing yet.
Where is Battery Park at?
That's right there by the Statue of Liberty.
It all began when Jim and Memphis Bleek had this lengthy, tearful conversation, and the mayhem started there. For Jim, the entire conversation became a therapy session filled with hypothetical situations. What if Diffit had remained close? What if there was still value in loyalty? His voice actually carried the same pain, as if he were still plagued by the way everything fell apart. Bleek, meanwhile, repeatedly mentioned Tony Yo's name. He brought him up on all of the major platforms. Drink Champs, everywhere, Shannon Sharp's show, and that was the final straw for Jim.
You gotta watch and see how he responds.
Jim was unable to contain himself when Yayo's name was finally mentioned during that depressing interview. He took elegant shots, acting as though he had been waiting all night to get personal. Also, timing was crucial. Before he finally let those shots fly in the end, Jim had spent hours setting that tone with forceful but cautious words. However, Jim was surprised by how severe Yayo's clapback was. Yayo didn't just answer. Like a resentful surgeon, he went over what Jim said line by line. Tony Yayo didn't only speak, he made precise movements. He shared the old-school Do It Right video with French Montana and Max B on Instagram. Furthermore, that wasn't at all random. Everyone is aware that Max and Jim dated for years. Thus, that post struck Jim's ego like a well-timed jab. Yayo isn't engaged in a checkers game. He is engaging in full-fledged chess play. Additionally, Jim is being hit where it hurts the most by every action. Because, let's face it, Jim's entire reputation still floats on the wave he's been riding since the days of the dipping set glory, the We Fly era. And his recent interview only served to highlight how much he still harbors resentment for past transgressions and unfulfilled promises, living in the past. Yayo is out here reminding everyone that he moves differently in the meantime. No lamenting the past, only loyalty and strategy in action. That is the true distinction between Dipset and G-Unit. Because 50 Cent truly looked out for Yayo, he remained stable. We're talking about paid tours, international travel, apartments immediately following incarceration, and true brotherhood. That demonstrates that loyalty does have meaning in the 50s camp. The message was therefore quite clear when Yayo began disparaging Jim's so-called Harlem Protector title. Give up frontin'. Additionally, Jim believed he was flexing when he made fun of people's appearances and bank accounts on Bleek's show as normal. However, it fell hard the instant Yayo returned with receipts and a spotless record of how 50 always had his back, which dumb up energy Jim was pushing. Yayo's entire strategy was focused on precise exposure. He didn't simply return the clap. He dissected Jim Jones in detail. He criticized Jim for acting like someone who had pleaded with 50 Cent for a feature and speaking like a commander. That completely changed the picture. Jim didn't appear to be a self-made Harlem boss all of a sudden. He appeared to have taken advantage of others before feigning to have created it himself. Not to mention that Jim and 50 used to look great together on stage, grinning like brothers during the game. Therefore, this new autonomous king act is not inconsistent with history. Yayo explained, rather than controlling Dipset as a true leader would have, Jim used 50 to pursue rapid wins, and his reputation is still tarnished by that choice. However, it was when Yayo mentioned Max and Stack that it truly hurt. Clout chasing wasn't that was legacy talk. Yayo even played an old video of Stack showing off his Porsche while still residing in the projects. Being wealthy does not equate to respect or protection. That struck a deep chord because it revealed how Jim failed his people when the chips were down. The kicker is this. Yayo brought out the fact that Jim profited handsomely from the same talent he never really nurtured. Everyone knew that Yayo was hitting a nerve that Jim had been hiding for years when the names Max and Stack were revealed. Jim and 50 both oversaw empires in the past, but only one of them truly upheld it for his people. There is more to this feud than just music. It has its roots in their upbringing, values, and style of gameplay. 50 Cent established his enterprise like a CEO with a blueprint, by promoting his team from the street to Bentleys, designer clothes, and safe havens away from the mayhem. Tony Yayo is the epitome of success. Man is steady, comfortable, and has a healthy diet. That's exactly the 50s formula. Keep your circle safe, stack your bread, and don't let the streets drag you down. There are genuine benefits to being under 50. Money, real, lasting protection, and respect. On the contrary, Jim Jones remained wed to the streets. He's always been more active and erratic, but that's who he is. He has performed all the parts, whatever it was needed to propel Dipset to the top. Manager, video director, hype man. He was the guy who distributed cash, covered studio fees, and organized features and tours. But rather than long-term stability, his brand of loyalty was infused with a lot of street energy. Look at Bundles, Stack, perfect example. Even though Jim gave him opportunities and money, Stack never left the projects. And that is where Yayo's hit struck the hardest. He never really saved his people, but he did help them.
Fifth said, yeah, which is why we are still winning. In essence, he validated what everyone had already assumed. Jim feels resentful since no one ever supported him as much as Yayo did in the 1950s. 50 and Yayo have a bond that goes beyond business. Its devotion developed through actual battles and triumphs. 50 demonstrated once more why he remains a threat in the room. His kingdom is impregnable because he treats his people like family. Regarding 50 Cent, one thing is evident. Anyone attempting to rescue his people is setting himself up for failure. Because of the depth of this dispute, you have to travel back in time to truly comprehend this back and forth. For years, 50s has been keeping tabs on Jim Jones, and it all stems from the Dipset mess, particularly through Cameron. Things went crazy back in 2007 when 50 openly criticized Coke recordings. Jim's signed label categorically called it a cemetery for washed-up musicians. Jim and Cam both responded with subliminals and insults after Harlem Pride was severely hurt by that remark. Diss tracks, interviews, shade, full-fledged mayhem, and outright tension conflicts were all the result of the tension blowing up. However, 50 did more than simply react. He planned. 50 played on both sides rather than sticking by his side. He kept the feud going by trolling Jim and Cam and using cunning tactics like inviting Jim and Jewel Santana on stage at performances while continuing to be at odds with Cameron. That was really brilliant. It made the conflict a live event that no one could miss. He ensured that the drama remained profitable and widely known. And he never stopped. 50 continued to make fun of Jim over the years, making fun of him on social media, comparing their levels of success, and reminding everyone that even if Jim's music slowed down, 50 continued to expand his empire. While Jim was still striving to establish himself as the best in Harlem, he stacked cash, brands, and business partnerships. It's a power move from the 50s. Psychological conflict. He is a troll. He is a manipulator. He occupies your thoughts to the point that you respond rather than reflect. Jim, on the other hand, invariably takes the bait. The contrast is as obvious as day. 50 functions similarly to a long-term businessman. Jim continues to struggle for recognition in Harlem by moving like a street soldier. There have been innumerable instances throughout the years. Outrageous on-stage appearances, dubious interviews, diss tunes, and constant trolling on social media. Every one of them stacked up like dominoes, establishing 50 Cent as the supreme tactician who consistently maintains the advantage. Jim has been fighting to preserve his reputation in the streets and the legacy he established in Harlem Pride. However, the contrast is constantly evident. When we fast forward to the most recent Yayo vs. Jim Jones bout, 50's response was crucial. He wasn't just supporting his child here. This was the 50's way of reminding everyone in the game that his loyalty is strong, constant, and supported by tangible action. He talks about more than simply loyalty. He lives it, finances it, and guards it. Jim, however, frequently discusses loyalty as though it were a catchphrase rather than a code. Loyalty means stability, comfort, and longevity to the crew of the 1950s. At that point, the drama evolved from a trivial back and forth to a valuable industry lesson. Yayo became the epitome of what it means to be steadfast. Years of being taken care of because of it, without any betrayals or switch-ups and standing by 50, Jim's loyalty, on the other hand, frequently comes out as ego. Expensive tours, dazzling appearances, and fancy drip, but little trust below. After that was the famous Dipset vs. LAX Verzo. Yayo personally called it out, claiming that it revealed all the information that fans needed. Jim's enthusiasm on stage didn't shout Harlem Boss. It shouted disarray, perplexity, and a lack of respect. The audience sensed it. That divide between image and allegiance was glaringly obvious. Jim Jones is free to show off all he wants, but that whole boss persona quickly crumbles if your own colleagues don't support you. All day long, you can post showy reels, saturate your neck with diamonds, and cover yourself in high-end clothing. But it's all smoke and mirrors without true loyalty. That is the brutal reality that Yayo has been upholding. And it additionally pierces Jim's pride deeply. That sting might not go away for him anytime soon. Jim said, "I'm not beefing with washed-up rappers, but come on," in an attempt to dismiss it as if he's beyond the controversy. That sounded less confident and more like a retreat. Fans quickly saw through the act. The cars, the chains, and the constant stretching all began to appear desperate rather than in control. And additionally, Jim has been going through a roller coaster lately, leaving many to wonder what is truly motivating him. He has been making waves everywhere he goes, even going so far as to claim that he is a better rapper than Nas. Yes, you heard that right. Jim went all out in an interview with Joe and Jada on the Joe and Jada podcast in June 2025, comparing his Billboard fits to gold or platinum medals as if they were scoreboards. Insinuating that Nas never had that type of reach before 2025, he further asserted that he has greater viral appeal with younger fans. But hip-hop didn't tolerate that at all. Artists and fans stepped in and ruthlessly mocked him. In support of Nas as the authentic lyricist and cultural titan he has always been, they swarmed the internet. Even a fake Nas song, 400 Bands, was made fun of by many who claimed that it was more powerful than anything Jim had just released. The problem is that this goes beyond a single absurd claim. Jim has been making fun of legends, starting arguments, and maintaining his prominence in the media. While trying to remind the culture that he is still alive, he went from Yayo to 50 to Nas. But it's beginning to look like a quest for relevance rather than gaining respect. Shouted an attempt to show that he is still participating in the discussion. The main problem facing Jim Jones at the moment is that his actions are beginning to look desperate. He's acting more like someone who is making an excessive effort to remind people that he still matters than someone who exudes Harlem royalty. Since his ad run isn't doing as well as it once did, he has been posting countless flexes on social media. The entire list of luxury items includes private jets, foreign cars, diamond chains, ice watches, and designer clothing. But he is being roasted left and right rather than gaining respect. The internet turns it into a meme war every time he attempts to share his Harlem King vibe. The comments are insane. He is being clowned by fans. Old supporters are becoming silent. Even the gossip blogs that once made him laugh have stopped talking.
The culture has not been duped. When someone is forcing significance rather than living it, they can tell. Furthermore, the contrast between it and 50 Cent, Tony Yayo, is striking. Stunting is not necessary for Yayo. His respect is self-evident. His decades-long devotion is more valuable than any diamond chain could ever be. Additionally, 50 is an expert at inverting a moment. He transforms every viral event into long-term brand-building opportunities and profitable ventures. Jim's strategy, meanwhile, comes across as frantic, reactive, disorganized, and occasionally downright depressing. He seems to be pleading for attention with each new flex, as if he's trying to prove to everyone that he's still that person. However, the culture is sharp. They can see right through it. The ice's weight and the drip's aesthetic appeal are no longer important. Every viral moment has turned into a new test of his true relevance, and that exam isn't going well for him at the moment. It's hard to think Jim was at the top in the early 2000s. Dipset dominated the streets, the charts, and the fashion industry. We Fly High was more than just a hit song. There was an entire movement.
That song solidified Jim Jones's status as Harlem royalty, defined a period, and became an anthem. His street cred was unbreakable at the time, and Dipset's wave was unstoppable. However, that golden age seems like a lifetime ago in 2025. Jim is now relying on feuds, cloud-chasing events, and outrageous remarks, rather than creating a legacy in order to maintain his popularity. He claims to be a greater rapper than Nas and to be more viral than a living icon. The culture quickly chastised him for his outrageous actions. Fans repeatedly remind him that respect lasts longer than opinions whenever he makes one of those ridiculous claims. Jim can brag all he wants, but the entire image will fall apart if respect is lost. Fans still have fond memories of the Dipset heyday, the togetherness, the swagger, and the pink fits. However, they also recognize the stark contrast between his prior supremacy and his current position. He keeps acting defensively and attempting to show something rather than just being himself. Because of that disparity, the internet prevents him from breathing. Each post becomes a roasting session. Fans are laughing, memes are going viral, and even the blogs that once extolled him are remaining quiet. That silence is more hurtful than any diss track, since it indicates that he is no longer taken seriously. Jim's attitude, ego, and prior victories are no longer enough to maintain the spotlight on him indefinitely. The culture will point it out when you start depending too much on outrageous actions and image flexing to remain relevant. And that's precisely what's taking place right now. Indeed, his actions provide entertainment value, but they also reveal a guy attempting to cling to a vanishing stardom. The question is now quite evident after all the receipts, roasts, and reality checks. What will happen to Jim Jones next? There is no doubt that Jim Jones is still making noise. He's probably already planning his next course of action, whether it's releasing an unexpected song, starting a new feud, or collaborating with up-and-coming musicians to capture the interest of the younger audience. Here's the twist, though. The game is no longer the same. Nowadays, fans do more than just listen to your music. They keep an eye on everything. Every article, post, and flex is evaluated like evidence in a court of law. Jim may continue to flaunt his diamond chains, wear luxury clothes, and boast about Dipset's heyday, but the focus of society has changed. The question of who is the brightest is no longer relevant. It concerns who is genuine and reliable. Credibility, loyalty, and legacy are intangible. They take time to earn. And for that reason, Yayo's composed, unconcerned style continues to be more effective. He isn't trying to get attention. He is contentedly enjoying the esteem he has already gained. When Jim does a trick, fans immediately start comparing. And furthermore, he is not benefiting from that comparison. It is not a blind culture. They distinguish between a man who is appreciated for his loyalty and one who is struggling to remain relevant. And that is the agonizing reality that Jim is currently dealing with. What will happen to him next? Can he change the subject and release a song so big that it silences everyone? Or will he continue to intensify his cloud-chasing tactics, which only serve to widen the hole? The mystery that kept the cultures watching was whether Jim could change his account, or if this was indeed the last chapter of the Dipset era. But I want to hear from you. Is this the beginning of the end for Jim Jones, or do you think he has one more comeback left? Write your thoughts in the comments section, click like, forward this to your team, and remember to subscribe. See you in the next